What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Becoming Stronger with Will the Beast. Today, I have a very special guest on the show today, Mr. Ron Garney, who is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and also an awesome comic artist. How you doing, Ron?
You are the best. What a greeting. My gosh. I got to do this show all the time. Greetings like that. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited.
Good.
Are you?
I'm excited. I like the poster you got behind your head, too.
Oh, yeah.
On purpose, or is that an accident? Just serendipity.
That might have been on purpose.
Yeah. That's good.
But I've been waiting for this interview for so long. I talked to Rich, one of the workers at our jiu-jitsu place, like almost a year ago, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll hook you up with Ron Garney." So it's like almost a year later, and we're finally here.
Yes, I know. We've been talking for a while. Rich is a good man.
Yeah,
he's a good soul.
So I know at that time, like, Berserker just happened, and you were just like, "Oh my God, there's so much stuff I have to do," and you're like, "Let's just wait until like issue 1 comes out."
I mean, it just was such a whirlwind the way it all came about, and yeah, it still is kind of. I mean, you know, it's moving like a freight train. So, and I came in, and it was just bam, I was in it. You know, it was a very, very surreal experience.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about Berserker later on. I have a whole segment about it.
All right.
But first off, I just want to say, when I interviewed Dan Panosian, we were talking about fighting and everything, and I asked him who would win in a fight between you two. And Dan absolutely loves striking and watching UFC. Now, the fights were last night, and so I think it's a perfect time to ask this question. So if you were thrown in the octagon with Dan Panosian, how long would it take you to make him tap? Keep in mind that he's great on his feet.
How do you know I'm not? Let's just say I'm not worried about it.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, the more you talk about things like that, the more you're the one who's worried about it. I'm not worried about it. So that's all I have to say about it.
Well, for the record, Dan said that you could beat him instantly. So,
well, that's very big of him for such a short guy. Just kidding.
Now, speaking of Dan, were you ever asked to go on the original Drink and Draw show?
Yes. Time, you know, again, it's timing and things like that. There were some reasons that I couldn't get on there. So eventually, maybe. Yeah. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so. I'm happy to have you here. Now, like I said, the fights were yesterday. Did you watch them?
Yes, I did. I did indeed.
What do you think of it?
I mean, you know, I got into a little bit of a debate. You know, I thought Ngannou might have improved a little bit, but not enough to overcome Stipe's sort of ring intelligence. But he got way better.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a small step forward. It was a leap forward, which was really impressive and good for him. He seems like a really good guy, you know, deserving of it. And I certainly wouldn't want to be on the end of one of his haymakers for sure.
Especially crazy to get. Yeah, but when they got on the ground, I thought that Francis's wrestling was a lot better. Like he moved around and he completely dominated him on the ground. So it was kind of
yes, he did
a lot better.
I think Stipe was a little bit surprised, and it kind of took him off guard.
Yeah.
I think once that happened, once he couldn't do anything on the ground with him, I think it kind of threw him, because I really think in his head he thought he would be able to just keep him where he did last time.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work that way. So I think he kind of panicked and didn't know what to do.
Yeah, well, especially when Francis landed that first punch, that was like, oh my.
Well, yeah, and the one that knocked him out, I mean, when he got rocked, it rocked a little bit, and then Stipe came back and hit him with that left. Or was it right? You could see that's where I knew he had panicked, because the fight wasn't going the way he wanted, because he rushed right into that other punch, which knocked him out. You know, I think he wanted to get it over with at that point. So, who wouldn't? I mean, look at that dude.
Yeah. Now, like, I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast a couple weeks ago when he had Francis on. And Francis's story is absolutely crazy. I don't know if you've heard it before.
Just he had a pretty rough upbringing when he was young. He
Yeah,
was,
so he was like living in Cameroon, and
right.
it took him over a year to like get out of there and just like get to a place where he wanted to be, and he was trying to like escape. And when he went in Morocco, when he got there, it took him 7 tries. He kept getting caught and sent back to the Sahara Desert to die, basically.
Oh, gee.
And the first time when he had to cross the Sahara Desert, there was 25 people in a Toyota Tacoma, and it took 24 hours to cross. So
Wow.
every time he got caught, he was sent back and had to like keep doing that whole thing over and over again. And
Okay.
then on like the 7th try, he finally got through. So
Wow,
pretty
that's
crazy.
amazing. You don't realize how some people in the world live. I think here in this country, some people, a lot of people have it rough, but they don't realize what it's like somewhere
Yeah.
else. We have it pretty good here for the most part. Then when
Yeah.
you hear stories like that, it puts things in perspective. What some people have to go through, and the journey it took from him to get there to where he is now is
Yeah. It's
just beyond
crazy.
incredible. The odds
Yeah.
are nuts. So
Yeah. And when he got to, I think, Spain, he was
right.
like, he was homeless and he was like living in just like the streets, and he was eating out of dumpsters, just trying to like eat what he could. So it's crazy hearing what he had to go through.
Hey, I do that now and then. I go buy a good dumpster. I smell something nice in there. I'll go in there and start munching away. No, I'm just kidding. Who doesn't like a good dumpster steak?
Did you watch any of the other fights as
Crazy.
well?
That's crazy. Yeah, I watched uh, O'Malley.
Yeah,
He's ridiculous.
I
He's
know.
ridiculously good. I mean,
It
even
should have it should have been over in the first round.
Rooney typing in talking about how good he is. He's good. I
Yeah,
mean, his instincts and his creativity and his speed are just really something else to watch. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
yeah. But he was kind of showing off in the first round when he like hit him, and then he went down and he did the walk off, tried to do that
Yeah,
whole thing, and then like he should have
yeah.
finished it.
That's they were criticizing him for that, and I'm kind of on both sides of the fence about that one because he clearly doesn't want to kill the guy. He looked like he was out, so he walked away. He made that choice. I think it was a fine choice, and he was obviously confident enough to finish it anyway. I
Yeah,
hear what
and
they were
then
saying, but I think it was good sportsmanship on his part.
yeah,
But whatever. I also saw Woodley. Poor Woodley.
uh,
He came
he
out.
was one of my favorite fighters for a long time, and then just like his last like 5 or 6
Yeah,
fights when he hasn't won it in a while,
yeah.
it just doesn't look like he wants to do it anymore.
I think he wanted to on this one, and I think
Yeah,
it's because of I don't know. I mean, I think he had something to prove to himself and maybe to
yeah,
the company, but it's over for him. He really should
yeah,
just give it up at this point. I mean, he's
yeah.
just
Like he came out good, and I was like, "Whoa, we've never seen this before." He comes out and he just goes poof, right in, and then
yeah. It
like
doesn't
just
seem like he's trying to be smart about it anymore, though. He doesn't
yeah,
move his feet. He doesn't box. He does. He just kind of goes in there swinging, and
yeah,
he tries to wrestle. And most of these guys, you know, have a lot of, especially the guy who was fighting, have great experience in that.
mm-hmm,
So he should have really worked on his boxing more and, used his foot movement better and things like
yeah,
that, more patient because he has the power. He just, I just think he relied on it too much in his career.
yeah.
So that's what
And
I,
it was like scary when he got like hit and he was like stumbling around and he couldn't like
yeah,
stand up and
I
stiff
give him,
legs.
points for his heart there. He was still
Yeah,
swinging even though he was out on his feet.
yeah,
So, but it was sad. So
yeah.
when are you going to get in there?
I don't know, maybe sometime soon.
Come on, throw some jab.
I'll get in there when I see you and Dan get in there.
Oh God, stop with the bait.
I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Uh, But moving on, as we both know, we are huge comic books fan. We love reading stories and exploring characters, but these characters aren't made without their origin story. So I want to like kind of begin this interview by hearing your origin story. What was childhood like for you, and what was your school career like?
This is the beginning of the interview. Okay.
Yes.
So what was my say that again? Sorry.
What was your childhood like, and like how was your school career?
I had a crazy childhood. Won't get into all that. It was a lot of obstacles to overcome. But my I was always into. I was always able to draw since I was little. I was always known for that. But then I kind of rejected that part of myself for a long time growing up because I wanted to do different things like play sports and and I also liked music, but I really wanted to be good at sports and things, and I kind of rejected that side of myself that came so naturally. It took some time before I learned to embrace it, and I think it's a journey every kid goes through. You're trying to find yourself and trying to, because you have other interests and things, and sometimes you have to accept these gifts that you have and embrace them, and ultimately use them to your advantage. If you let them squander, if you squander them, then it's like a muscle; it just deteriorates. And there was a period of time where I took it for granted because I was pretty good at it, and I was always better than most people. It came easier. I won't say better, but just came easier to me. And so, as time went on, because I was taking for granted, those skills deteriorated a little bit, and then I learned to embrace it, and and here I am. So that's basically where my head was at growing up about it. And then once I got to college and everything, I saw there were 100 people in the class just like me, who were better than I was. It wasn't about who was better or worse, but you could see the commitment they had to their craft, and it helped me learn to embrace it more once I got to school. So
yeah, like I heard that you were like drawing when you were around like 3 years old, like just drawing characters. So
I had little. I still have them somewhere. They look like little balloons with S's on them, with backwards S's with capes. Superman and things like that. So I was always drawing since I was like 3. They were like 3 years old. Yeah.
So
My kids do. My kids draw. And they're young.
Yeah.
So.
So through your time of like school, were you known more as like the athletic kid or like the nerdy kid that likes to draw?
Yeah, when I was young, I was known as the kid who likes to draw, who could draw, but I was playing all the sports. I wasn't the sports star by any means. There were a couple kids who were really good, but I wanted to. I loved playing, and I liked the camaraderie and the team environment, things like that, and the exhilaration of competing. Probably why I like jiu-jitsu too. But I was known more for that, and I was into Star Trek. I've always had a very eclectic taste in things. It wasn't just drawing. It wasn't just science fiction or Star Wars, but I liked baseball. I liked football. I liked basketball. And then, so I was a little bit of an anomaly in that regard. I kind of phased in and out of both areas. And then once I got to high school, I kind of settled. I stopped playing as many sports, and I got into music, got into dating girls, and then went to college, and and then that's when I kind of really made the focus on my art career. So right in college and after college. So.
Yeah. So you started art when you were like 3. When I was 3, I was playing. I was really into like golf, kind of. So I would like go outside and I'll just swing the golf club around.
That's a great.
It like led me to becoming like this huge like golfer that I would do like every single day, and I did that until I was like 11. And in Connecticut, like all the kids golfers were like, "Oh, that's that kid. He's the good one." But when I got to 11, like 10 or 11, I was like, I am beat. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I went to nationals. I traveled all across the country
doing. You were in national golfing.
Yeah.
No kidding. Well, what a great career that would be.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's
from
just,
what I heard, I just found out like yesterday that my dad said like I had scholarship opportunities and all that sort of stuff, but I don't even remember that.
really,
So
wow,
yeah,
that's amazing. I mean, honestly, because I was just watching that most recent golf tournament where that young kid won. What's his name? Can't think about the top of my head. But anyway, yeah, I think it's. I love golf. Actually, I think it. It's funny because upon first viewing of golf when you're younger, it's hard to understand what the fascination is until you play it a couple times. Then once you play it, I mean, it's the amount of focus you have to have and the
yeah,
precision with every little, just the twist of your hip, or
yeah,
how the littlest things make the biggest difference. So if you were able to do that and you were the best around, I mean, that's pretty great. You should probably consider getting back into it. I mean,
yeah.
that's amazing.
I do it like every once in a while, like, but back then, like I would go like spring to the fall, I would go like every single day, and then in the winter we had a whole like setup down here. We had a huge net, and I would practice hitting it into there. So it's kind of like a year-round thing for me.
Oh, maybe you could win the Masters someday.
Yeah.
See
But
what happened
like,
to Tiger recently?
what's that?
You see what happened to Tiger?
With the car accident?
Yeah,
Yeah,
destroyed his leg, huh?
it's crazy.
Yeah, hopefully, who knows if he'll come through that and be able to play ever again.
Yeah.
It's
But
tragic.
after I finished golf, I was like, I want to try something different because I was always known as a kid that likes to play golf and like never gotten to like his hands dirty kind of thing. So I was like, you know what? I want to try something new. So I did you I was like, because I still like fighting and stuff. So I was like, I want to try jujitsu. And then so I go to my first class and I was like, I absolutely love this.
Well, you know why? It's because there's a similarity in the amount of precision you have to have.
Yeah.
It's like golf; it's a game of inches in a way, and
Yeah.
just the slightest variations in your swing and
It's like solving puzzles.
with solving puzzles. It's like playing chess, and you have to be very precise.
Yeah.
Knowledge of how to, and your understanding of leverage and the feeling of the weight and distribution and things
Mhm.
like that. So it's I could see why it would appeal to you.
Yeah.
So being a
And
golfer.
like at that time I was really skinny. So like well, first off, I did like a couple months of jujitsu and then I was like, I want to do wrestling now. So I was doing both of them. So I did wrestling in the winter. And I was doing that, and I was like, I'm really skinny because I would see like all the wrestlers and they were all like had muscles and stuff. I was like, I gotta start working out. So I go
Wow.
to the gym and I'm working out now, and I think like that really took over. I loved working out, but I still love doing jujitsu. But it's like I never expected to be doing this because I went from playing golf to like wrestling, setting American records and powerlifting and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, this is really crazy.
That's pretty great, though. But don't, I mean, you're on a journey and you're going to find all kinds of different things along the way on that journey. And you just happen to find this, and that's great, I think. It's great that you love the golf, but it's also great that you're doing this and you're setting records in this. I mean,
Yeah.
I would never question whether it was the right thing or wrong thing. I think it's the right thing. It's always the right thing if it's what you're interested in,
Yeah.
So.
But the weird thing is I do all this sort of stuff and then my school is just completely different. I go there. Like for the longest time this year, I sat alone at lunch and then I sat with one person that was like not there. So I went and sat with them and then I sit there more often now. But I was like, this is why, you know? But like, you were getting dates, and I haven't talked to a girl since like 8th grade.
No,
So
it'll happen. Don't worry. It'll happen for you. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't worry about that right now. If I'm sure your father will even tell you, he who is off the screen, that's one thing you have to let just happen on its own,
yeah,
because pursuing that kind of thing can be a huge distraction from the things you need to do. And you're in a growth period now in your life and in yourself and who you're becoming.
yeah,
And that kind of thing, when you get involved with girls and things like that, a lot of the success of that depends on this journey you're on now personally. because you're in this journey now personally, and you're developing this person, and that person is going to be the person interacting with the girl you end up with.
Yeah.
So you have to just not worry about that. I mean, I'm not trying to give you all kinds of life advice here, but take it from me is all I want to say.
Yeah, I think I'm so focused at the stuff I do. Like, I want to like really like do good at this whole thing. Like, I take my interviews so seriously, and I throw some jokes in there to like lighten the mood. But I really focus on this stuff and jujitsu and lifting weights.
Disco ball, come down, and spin lights around, play music while we're talking. Yeah. Really jazz it all up. You can go crazy with it on a YouTube video or something.
But a lot of people say like I'm actually like older than my actual age, because like I don't do like all the stuff that the kids are doing, like hanging out at friends' houses and stuff like that, and doing all that sort of thing. I'm focusing on this. So
yeah, you seem like you like hanging around with adults quite a bit, huh?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot more adult friends than kid friends.
Mature for your age. You're an old soul deep inside.
Yep.
That's a good thing. Yeah. You're wise beyond your years. Well, beast. I like that.
I want to move on to a different topic. In one of the interviews you were on, I heard you say that you worked as a bartender. Yeah. When I had some bodybuilders on, they said that they were bouncers.
I was that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I started out as a bouncer, and then I got into the bartending later. My first bouncing gig was in 1981. Or what, was it 81? Yeah, it was 1981 or 82. And I worked at this place called Daniel's, and I was a college kid at that point, and it was a really weird thing to go in there, and stand there and have to throw people out. So yeah. It was especially as being a college kid, it was a very fast-paced learning experience, and you learn a lot about life in those situations, about human nature in a bar, believe me. But so I started out as a bouncer, and then I ended up bartending down the road, and then I was a manager as well, a nightclub manager. So that same club I bartended at.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. But that's what I was going to ask you. Like, did you have like any like crazy stories that you had to like deal with?
God, like for instance, I have tons of stories. They might not be for your young ears. But yes, I have plenty of stories. What kind of stories are you looking for?
I don't know. Was there like any like big brawls or fights or anything?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Oh yes, lots of those. Yeah. You want to hear specific ones?
Yeah, so like just to get an idea.
I have a scar here from one. I ended up with amnesia. That was a pretty big one. And there was one where I was it's funny because I was just talking to a buddy of mine yesterday. His name is Mike Thornton. He lives out in California. And I remember I got in a fight with 5 guys. It was just me and 5 guys because I was in civilian clothing. I wasn't in and they didn't know who I was. I was the manager. And I went over to their group, and I told them it was time to leave because we were closing. And they thought I was just some guy. So the guy hit me over the head with a bottle. I ended up scrapping with all these guys. And I remember every time I went to swing at one guy, there was somebody punching me on this side, And I looked over at my friend Mike, because I looked over and I saw my friend Mike run over. He picked up this huge aluminum ashtray and just started wailing people with it. And so then it got broken up. But I never forgot that moment where I looked and saw Mike, and we've been friends ever since. We were always bumming around together a lot back then. But that was a fight, I mean, my fights were, they got pretty brutal. I ended up with 5 stitches. I woke up in the hospital from this other fight with amnesia because I got in a fight with a guy. I still don't remember the fight, but what I was told is me and this guy hooked onto each other, and my foot slipped on the alcohol next to the bar. And evidently my head hit the corner of the tile on the footrest on the bar, and there was a popping sound. They said I got up and I was walking in circles as the other bouncers were, had gotten involved. And all I remember, I don't remember the fight, but I remember waking up in the hospital and just not knowing how I got there, and I had blood all over my tuxedo shirt. My chin was stitched up, and my buddy said I was telling him to call my girlfriend, who I had been broken up with for like 3 years. I wasn't even with the girl anymore. But oh, you got to call my girlfriend, tell her to come pick me up. That's how much it rattled me, hitting my head on the corner there. So it was at that point where I used to eat the fights like candy. Like, you start getting into it after a while because the adrenaline rush. But it was after that fight that I started being like, maybe this isn't such a smart idea. I mean, I could end up getting hurt pretty bad if I'm not careful. Because at one point, you start kind of looking for it. And then, I never looked for fights, but I was never afraid to get in them. If somebody started with me, I would get in it. I've never started a fight myself. That's the truth. So you have to be careful. But, there were lots of scraps. One time I was pulling into the parking lot, or pulling out of the parking lot after bartending shift, and a guy walked up and just looked at me and started peeing on my car. Well, I had to get out and take care of that guy, So the bar world is filled with those kinds of crazy things. So luckily, you won't be not going down that road in your life. You want
I want to stop you right there. You were talking about like the guy peeing on your car. It brought up a thing my dad said to me. He said that he took my mom to a Zakk Wylde concert before I was born, and when they went there, they were at the concert and they were like dancing around, and then a guy started peeing all over the floor.
Oh, no.
And he said that there was pee everywhere, and then the security guards came. They slipped on it and they kept wrestling around in it, and they didn't realize what it was at first. And then when the security guards found out what it was, they were like, oh, they took him and then they chucked him out. And then my mom's like, I'm never going to a metal concert again.
Sean, what are you doing, buddy? So I know you're there. You can't hide from me on this one. What was up with that? You're taking your wife to concerts where people are fighting and pee on the floor. That must have been pretty crazy.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. That's nice.
But moving on, I know we touched on this a little bit, but outside of comics, you love jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Can you tell me about your jiu-jitsu experience, and when did you start and why did you start?
I always liked the idea of wrestling. I never actually wrestled in high school or anything, but I had been watching the UFC. I was always into striking. I did Ketsuka when I was younger in high school. I was from this place called the Hamsey School up in Torrington. I did some Aikido. I did boxing. I was always into the striking, but I always liked the idea of wrestling, which I never got to do. But I remember watching the UFC back in the early 90s, getting the very first one. And it always fascinated me because I always felt like the jiu-jitsu was always very colorful compared to a lot of the other disciplines. The idea that Royce Gracie could have a guy like, Ken Shamrock on top of him, or guys that size, and be able to submit them.
Yeah.
Using leverage and everything was fascinating to me. Or Dan Severin, or who's the Hawaiian guy he fought? He pulled his hair out.
Yeah, I remember that.
His name off the top of my head. Or guys like Tank Abbott, things like that. So I was always fascinated by it, and I had always lifted weights and things like that, and I was getting really tired of doing that. I wanted something that would stimulate my brain if I was going to use my body rather than just doing repetitions of weights all the time. I got really big at one point, my shoulders are paying the price for it now at my age. But, so I happened to be going to FedEx to drop off some work to mail. And I looked over and there was an MMA gym right across the street. And I had just been thinking about doing that. And so I was like, oh, there we go. That's a message to me, So I walked across and I looked around, met the owner. His name was Andrew Calandrelli, and I signed up, paid for a year right there. And then within the first couple of weeks, I broke my foot doing Muay Thai. So snap. So I remember hobbling out of there. So while I was in, on crutches, I was still laying on the ground doing the jujitsu as well and letting guys try to pass my guard, just not stepping on the foot at all. So I was learning, just to have people on top of me, what that felt like, and trying the jujitsu and everything else. So I went for a while like that. And then I blew my knee out, So I was my first year or two of my jujitsu career. I was injured. And that was back in 2004 or 5. And then but I never quit. I'm not a quitting type, and I just fell in love with it. Once this guy came from Brazil, his name was Renato Migliaccio. He made us start wearing the gi. I always liked the no gi because I was, I like the UFC and I like the idea of doing, no gi wrestling, jiu-jitsu. But once he made us put the gi on, at first I was hesitant about it, but then I fell in love with it because it slowed it down so much. And it became much more of a mental strategy involved rather than a fast pace, slick, sort of explosive. I could use my mind more and slow it down and think of moves and learn moves, use the material for leverage and, all kinds of, the world just sort of opened up for it. Not to say that no gi isn't awesome too. It is. I just, but it's just a different dimension with the gi. And so, I fell in love with it and just stuck with it. And, I was always doing private lessons with guys I like, like Renato, my first gi instructor, and just stuck with it. And here I am, So I don't train as much as I like to anymore because I'm older and I have a metal shoulder inside, so it's a little harder for me. It started about 5 years ago. I was having real difficulty with my shoulders. So
yeah, like we haven't been to like a jiu-jitsu class in around since like before Christmas because of this, like it got really hard with the whole COVID thing and wearing masks, and I could only wrestle with my dad and he's 100 pounds heavier than me, so it was like
well, that's the best person to learn from.
Yeah, but like
you said, next time you go against a lighter kid or guy, it's going to feel much easier.
Yeah, but I was like, I can't do anything against you. And then I
know. Like, well, I teach my son. My son is like, he's 13. How old are you?
15.
You're 15. My son's 13. He's tall. He's lean. My son has I have to teach him to control his temper because he gets mad because I'm, obviously I'm bigger, stronger, and I know what I'm doing. And, but he's got a lot of fight in him when he wants to. So it's good because it's helping him channel that in the proper ways. And it's good. I mean, I let him do things. I don't know if your father just likes beating up on you. Is that right?
A little bit of both.
But, I try to let my son do things, I tailor back my, what I know to try to help him and match him. And I go easier in certain ways so he can learn. I don't want to just, go in there and just destroy the kid, I mean, I let him learn. And so he'll, I teach him as he's going along. I'll tell him, okay, you're standing too square to me. You need to put 1 foot forward. Get your balance. Things like that. And then I let him just come at me. He didn't like doing it at first. When he first started going, he was going to my friend Brad Wolfson's school over in Hamden. I don't know if you know Brad Wolfson. Makahau, BJJ. He knows Rich. Anyway, so I was bringing my son there for a bit, and he just didn't like it because my son, when he was younger, just didn't like being touched. So jiu-jitsu wasn't exactly something he enjoyed doing. He hated being touched in that close contact. But then he got older. Once he started getting muscles, and all of a sudden he was like, he wanted to use them. So he's got a little more testosterone kicking around in him now, and he likes to actually come and wrestle with me sometimes. So I'm teaching him as much as I can when we can.
Yeah.
So
well, it's kind of like what you said when me and my dad wrestle or grapple. We would be like before the class, I would like grapple with my dad, like warming up and stuff, and he'd put like his weight on me, and like when I would go to the class, I would wrestle someone like my weight, and I'd be like, oh, I can like throw this guy around.
Yeah, I tell you, it makes a difference. It's good to
Yeah.
with somebody bigger, and that's
Yeah.
what jiu-jitsu is for. I mean, the whole idea of it was so a smaller person could take on a bigger person.
Yeah.
You should watch Helio and Kimura. Those fights. He was so much smaller, and that's what the whole art is about, really. So you're on the right track training with your dad, unless he just doesn't want. Unless he just wants to keep beating you up, then it's
Yeah. So like,
John.
I was joking with him the other day. I was like, when we go back to jiu-jitsu, I've put on about like 40 pounds since last year, and I was like, I think I can take you now.
You put on 40 pounds since last year?
Yeah, because
Really?
I went from having like 3 meals a day to 6 meals a day, so it really changed, and I just went
So 40
shot
pounds
right up. What's that?
Yeah, so you just, in addition to a growth spur, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because 40 pounds is a lot in a year. I mean,
yeah, I grew about like 5 inches.
Wow, that's crazy. Good for you.
But
You got big forearms, I can see. Wait, you got big forearms.
I don't know, maybe.
Let's see those forearms. Yeah, look at that. Big fists.
But going back to the story, I was like, I think I can take you on now. He's like, really? So I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, come on. And then I get destroyed. So.
Well, someday that's the day your father wants to happen, I would imagine, because I know that for me, I want my son to be able to outdo me someday. Then I've done my job, and I'm sure that's what he wants for you.
Yeah.
So don't get discouraged. Just keep going at him. Matter of fact, go tackle him right now.
Yeah, it'll happen someday. I know for sure.
Go get him. Go get him right now. I want to hear you guys tussle.
But like, it's hard right now because he's going for the American record in the deadlift for 700 pounds.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's
Kidding.
Yeah.
700 pounds?
700.
Nice. The strongest guy I ever saw was Tony Atlas. I don't know if you know who Tony Atlas is. He was a wrestler.
Yeah.
World, professional wrestler back in the 80s.
70s, 80s.
70s, 80s. And I used to work out at Mike Katz's gym over in Hamden here. And he would be working out there.
From Pumping Iron?
Yeah, Mike Katz from Pumping Iron, yeah. And Tony Atlas was benching 630 pounds. And his arms were like this big. And everybody in the whole gym just stopped what they were doing to watch because the bar was just bending, And so he lifted it off, and he did it 3 times, 630 pounds for 3 reps. 630 pounds.
There's a guy named Julius Maddox right now, and he's going for the world record, and he's trying to bench press 800 pounds.
That's insane.
Think
about that. When you think about that, it's amazing that our bones can even handle that.
Yeah, I know. But he's massive. He's like he's really tall, and he's close to like 500 pounds.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it makes Kazmaier look tiny, huh? Or the who's the giant there from Game of Thrones. Most I ever benched was 365, I think. Yeah. 3 plates and a 25. Is that 365? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the most for one.
Yeah.
I never tried it again after that. I could squat up over 400 pounds. I can still squat about 400.
Yeah.
If I'm, but it blows my knees out. I can feel the pressure on my knees, so I don't do it.
Yeah, we talk to a lot of bodybuilders, and like when they get like past the 400 pounds, they're still like really nervous to go in and like do the set because it's just so much like a weight hanging above them.
It sure is. I mean, I do it and I feel it. My knee, honestly, I can just feel my knees just crushed, and it doesn't feel good. Like it feels good up until that point, like the pump and everything else. And I always start out with like 50 reps with, like 225 or something. Just to get really pump the legs up and warm them up good.
Yeah.
But at my age now, I've had 2 knee surgeries and stuff, and I can't help myself. I still get a little stupid about it because in my brain I'm still younger, but I'm 58, and my body keeps telling me to stop. So I'll go in and I'll do something a little too heavy, and my body will remind me that I can't do that anymore. So I have to be smart. at my age. You
Now,
don't have to be.
now
You do.
staying on the topic of jiu-jitsu, did you ever like compete at any tournaments or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. I competed twice. I came in second, but I'm not, I didn't do it enough. That's a real eye-opening experience because when you do, it's like it puts you in a different mindset. I mean, you go out there and it really is. I don't know how there was a scene in movie with Russell Crowe, Gladiator, where they talk about going out into the arena and they say it's a heightened sense of things. Or no, is that 300? Maybe it's 300 that did that. Yeah, I think it was 300 that said that. And it's true. It's like you go out there and because you're about to go out into, a fight with all those people watching, and you really feel this sense of life that you've never felt before. I can't explain it. It's like this exhilarating awareness of everything, and I can only imagine what it was like for gladiators back when their lives were, they were going to get killed.
Yeah.
You focus on life so much in those moments because of how intense the experience is to go out and because it's always like that with the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen, so so it's just a very intense experience, when you're facing the unknown like that, and it's combat, and you could get hurt or whatever, it touches upon something evolutionary in your DNA, I think. And I couldn't recommend it enough. You should try it because it really.
I've competed at a couple jiu-jitsu tournaments. I think it was like 2 or 3, and like with high school wrestling, I like did a tournament like every weekend. But like the thing I noticed is that like wrestling tournaments like way more intense. Everything's way faster, and it's like going like 100 miles an hour. And then jiu-jitsu is like more relaxed, trying to set up what you're going for and just like putting the pieces of a puzzle together.
But you learn the most, I think. I mean, I feel like your game just increases, the more you compete. I unfortunately, because I just don't have the time, or I wanted to. I mean, when I started, I wanted to retire from comics and just teach jiu-jitsu and compete and whatever. But the timing wasn't there. I mean, my schedule, I've got 4 children, and so I competed a couple times, but it wasn't in the cards for me to do that, But I admire it. It's a lot of fun. It sure is. Did you watch Gordon Ryan?
Yep.
He's unbelievable, huh?
Yeah.
He's great.
And there's another guy, Craig Jones, that goes against him.
Yeah, good. He's great. Did you see him slap Andre Galvao?
No, I didn't see that.
You didn't see Gordon Ryan slap Andre Galvao? Oh, you got to see that. It's called the slap heard around the world. Galvao and him were jawing at each other on social media quite a bit. And so at one of the last tournaments, I forgot which was Fight to Win or something. I don't remember what it was, but Gordon went over to Andre's team, and John Danaher, and they went over shaking hands, and John shook Andre's hand. And when Gordon went to shake Andre's hand, Andre sort of just flipped him off. Just was like, and so Gordon was like, okay, whatever. And he walked out. So Gordon was off going to do an interview backstage. And at one point, and Andre was right there, and Gordon goes walking by him to go to his interview. And then Andre starts talking smack to him. And Gordon, he's like, oh, look at you. What are you running? You're running away. Calling him the P word and everything else. And he's like, where are you running from? So Gordon finally turned around. He says, what? I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here. He walked over to Andre, and Andre shoved him. And so Gordon was like, okay. He goes, what? What are you going to do? And he slaps him across the head. And Andre didn't do anything. He just was like, he was so shocked that Gordon actually slapped him hard too.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, and then Andre started kind of like just talking more and more. And then Gordon's like, what? I'm right here. And then he smacks him again. And Andre still didn't do anything. So he just is like, yeah, you're not going to do anything. He goes, please do something, after he slaps him. And then he walks into the other room to do his interview. And then you could see that Andre was just like shocked and, was trying to save face. And he went in there, chased him in there, and was just talking to him, saying, I want to just talk to you like a man to man. He's like, what do you mean, man to man? You shoved me and flipped me off, and I slapped you. What more is there to say? And you did nothing. So, where's this man to man thing coming from? So it was pretty crazy to watch.
Yeah.
You can look it up on YouTube. You'll see it.
Yeah. I'll definitely check it out after this.
Yeah.
But I want to move on to like comic books now.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about like your beginning in comics. Like, I know that you were part of like the Marvel tryout book, and you were beaten out by Mark Bagley. Can you tell me more about this? And
what did you
like,
watch?
did you ever run into like Mark later on and be like, you?
I didn't know Mark at the time. I mean, yeah, I tried out. I mean, it wasn't, lots of people tried out for that thing, and it was, you had to send it in. It was before I was working for Marvel, and then I didn't find out till years later that he had won that. I didn't even know who he was. And then, I found out it was him once I did know who he was, and we'd seen each other at conventions and stuff. That was it. Never really cared one way or another. So I don't even know what he's doing now. Is he still working for DC?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure.
He's done in a long time. So, but I don't get to comic shops too often. So
yeah, I know him like personally from like all the Spider-Man stuff that he's worked on.
Yeah, he's got quite a run on that.
Yeah,
I think he did more issues than anybody in the. So.
And when I interviewed Dan, he also did the Marvel tryout book. So like he was like 14 or 15 when he did it. He got accepted at that time, but like the people were like, let's just wait until you're older to get in because you're still a kid right now.
He got accepted at that time, you said?
That's what he said.
Because he did the tryout book?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a contest. It was a contest, and so either you won or you didn't. So I don't know. I mean, I did. I got a letter in the mail that said, "Thanks, but no thanks," or whatever. Thank you, but your submission, and then they were going to send the pages back. And then I went into Marvel because I was in New York City and I wanted the pages back because they hadn't sent them, and they were like, "Oh, we're so sorry, we couldn't send them all back. There were too many submissions, and we don't know whatever happened to any of them." So I was like, "Oh, bummer." Yeah. So I mean, I got in 1989. That was my first year in, and I got in because I knew a guy. I met a guy in the area who worked in comics named Mike Zach, and he worked on this book called Secret Wars, which was one of the huge, pushes, promotions back in the, in the 80s. And so he just happened to live down the road from me, and I found out through a friend of mine, or no, actually the store owner where I got the trial book told me he lived in the area. So I looked him up, and there he was, and I called him up, and he was very gracious, let me send him my work, and he told me what I could work on, but he seemed to think I was pretty good. And he started coming to my bar, and then he brought me into New York, and that's how it happened. So that's how I got in. I wasn't into comics for years. I mean, I read them when I was younger, and then later on, but once I got to high school, I forgot all about them. I was into girls and sports and music, and I would still draw, but I wasn't into the comics at all. And then once I was bartending, it was 1985, and then the guy behind the bar had a comic. And I was like, wow, this is really great, and I kind of got into it. And I thought that's when I could do something with it. Because I was out of college, I could do something with it, kind of touched all the buttons. I liked directing, I liked composition, I liked drawing, and it was all in there, storytelling. And so it was like a short form of movie, like making a little movie, except you're drawing it. So it just seemed like such a fun thing to do. And so I was managing nightclubs at that point and everything else, and I was working on samples here and there. And then I finally got serious about it. and sent my stuff to my exec, and that's when I got in. So decided I needed a career other than having a life like a vampire, a nightclub manager, waking up at 4:00 in the afternoon, go to work at 7:00 at night or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you said that you were like getting in around like the 90s and like that sort of time.
1980.
So you came up around like Todd McFarlane and Joe Quesada and so many others. Did you ever get like the chance to like meet these people?
Oh yeah, I hung out with Todd McFarlane a little bit in San Diego at one of the cons. And I've known Joe for years. He, just through here and there, we run into each other or what have you. Yeah, so for sure. And he was the editor-in-chief of Marvel when I was there. So
now I like to ask this question to people who have been in the industry for quite a while. Did you ever get the chance to meet Stanley?
Yep, I did a store signing with him in Stanford,
Oh, really?
Connecticut. Yep, years ago. I sat right next to him. So
Awesome.
Fun guy, he was Stan Lee. It's like he really was the brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He took it seriously. He was Stan Lee, and he talked like that, and he really became so known for his, his expository, delivery on things that, and he became that. So talking to him was interesting. It was fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, people come up and show me comics he and I signed together way back. So it's been a long time though. And I ran into him a couple times over the years after that, at like a Marvel Christmas party one time, and one time walking on the street in San Diego, it was just him and I, and we walked and stopped and talked for a minute, and that was it. So yeah, a few times.
Nice. Now I know that you worked on Daredevil, and I see the Daredevil poster behind you.
Yeah.
What did you think of the TV show for that? And what do you think of it what like that time where it was like it's no more, and then like that whole thing?
It was well received. It seemed like it was fun to watch. Quality product. I got to do a couple of sketches for it. They asked me to do some artwork for it. So yeah, I enjoyed it. And it was good timing for our book, mine and Charles Soule, to come out, and because it was a similar tone. Like Mark Waid and Chris Samney had a tone that they used. Where Daredevil was like this dandy guy in a suit, and a cane, and so it was a complete departure from where the character had been to that, and then we brought it back to what you see on the poster back there, something dark and more, and I like what Charles did with it, because he turned him from a defense lawyer into a prosecutor. And so yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was my high moments in my career, I feel like.
Yeah. What do you think of what Chip Zdarsky's doing to the series?
I haven't read it. I have no idea what's going on with it.
No, it's definitely really good right now. It's definitely one of the top Marvel books right now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. Like I said, I don't get to see too much. I don't get to comic shops too often. I haven't. When I do this for a living, and then at the end of the day, I'm done. I have kids. I gotta. I have other things at jiu-jitsu I'm interested in. So I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what's going on so much anymore.
Yeah.
But
it's nice that you can kind of separate yourself and do your own thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing it for 35 years. I mean, I've been involved in comics for 35 years. I mean, I actually was an apprentice for a guy back in 1986 or 7. And then I finally got in 89. Yeah, after that amount of time, at the end of the day, I want to put it aside. So,
When I interviewed Scotty Young, I asked him the same question, what do you think of the Daredevil series? And then he was like, I don't know. I know that he only has 3 Eisners. I have 4, so I don't even acknowledge him.
Said that?
Yeah.
He was kidding, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. kind of a dick thing to say if he was serious.
Because Chip and Ryan Stegman and like Scotty are like a part of like this group where they're always like picking at each other and like trying to get each other going. So
that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for them. I was nominated once. Who cares?
But I want to go into a book that came out just a couple weeks ago. It's called Berserker.
Yeah.
Now, I know that before this book came out, or before this whole thing got started, you were finishing up Juggernaut, and I heard you say that you were finishing up your contract with Marvel, and you were looking to like take a break from like working on comics and like do your own thing, just have free time, spending time with your family and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when this project basically fell right into your lap, were you excited or were you like, I just said I want to take a break?
Did you watch some of my other interviews or something?
I watched like all your interviews leading up to this.
Saying the things that came out of my mouth, it's funny to hear that. Yeah, it did. It literally fell into my lap from the sky, kind of. So you want to know how it happened?
Now, like, what was your like reaction when you like got that? Were you like, yeah, let's do it, and then were you like, I don't want to work anymore?
Oh well, I needed a break at least. I kind of left my contract to Marvel, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I wanted a break, but then this came along, and I told them even, I said, it's kind of, it happened so fast. It was like kind of going from one relationship with a serious relationship with a girlfriend to another girlfriend right away. It was like, and I just broke up with this girl. So it was fast and furious. And here I am. I try not to think into it too much, because when you start to think too much, it can slow you down and take you to sidetrack you and things like that. When I get into the zone of doing this, I just shut things down and I go and I do it. And this is a very fast-paced book, and it's Keanu Reeves and Matt, and and it was a fun opportunity anyway. And I like the character. It was when they told me about it, it was kind of like, like I said before, is in my wheelhouse. It's a gritty, rough character. Like Wolverine kind of.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at that kind of stuff, I think. So it made sense, and actually Keanu and I know some of the same people. One guy from jiu-jitsu, this guy, Gay Cobham, he's actually the guy I competed against. We became good friends, and he knew Keanu because he owns the security agency that Keanu hires for his John Wick movies. And so he texted Keanu, and I wrote to Keanu, and we kind of all were tickled that we knew each other, and then another friend of mine trains some of his bodyguards or stuntmen out in L.A. So yeah, we had this in common, and it just seemed like we both like motorcycles, and and it just seemed like a fun thing to get into, and plus it's it was trippy, obviously. I mean, it's Keanu Reeves, when they first told me, like, what? Keanu Reeves. I'm like, the Keanu Reeves is doing a comic, and he wants to work with me on that. And so it was weird at first, and I'm talking to him, and like I'm talking to you, and
like
it's weird
what was that?
Because all these characters, the iconic characters you see in movies and stuff, and it's trippy. And then I'm used to it now, and now it's just Keanu. But for a bit, a couple of times, I'm like looking at him like, can't believe I'm talking to this guy. It's like a fictional character almost. But it's not like that anymore. And he's a really good dude, and he has a great ability to make you feel comfortable, and he treats everybody really well. So it's been fun.
Now, like, you're like walking down the street, and Keanu's right there, and he's like, Keanu Reeves. You're like, yeah, whatever. He's right here. It's fine.
Well, yeah, whatever. And he's a great guy, and I love his movies. But it's hippie, like I said.
Yeah, I just want to fan out right now. But like, what was it like talking with him? Like, did he tell you about like his career and his motorcycles that he has, and then like his company?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. I love the arch method he's working on. I mentioned that to him.
Yeah.
Because it's a really cool design on a bike. It's one I've met. It's very unique looking. It has a very edgy feel to it for a speed bike. Most speed bikes looks, they have the streamlined look, but this thing looks dark and cool, and something very matrixy almost. You can see where why Keanu would be involved in something like this bike. These bikes. So we talked about that. We talked about training together, maybe, but he seemed a little more apprehensive about that because he basically said that when he's training for the movies, it's a predetermined outcome. I get the feeling with him, there's so much at stake with his career. To get injured would be a bad thing, so when he's doing it, it's for a rehearsal thing. He has to learn these moves, but to just train and beat each other up, I don't think he's going to want to do that because he's probably going to insured for all I know, but yeah, so we talked here and there about stuff, so
I've watched like a couple of videos of like him on YouTube with his like motorcycles, and they're like so expensive.
Yeah, what are they? How much were they when you saw them?
I think around like the 100,000 mark, around there, a little more.
They're expensive for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? There's a lot of cars that are like that,
But I want to talk about like the first issue of Berserker. I really enjoyed it. I'm a huge fan of like action comics, like not like action comics, but like just like straight on like action, fighting, violence, and all that sort of stuff because I think it's awesome.
These are the original pages.
I'm gonna full screen you.
Yeah, see that?
Oh,
this is some of the original art.
That's awesome.
You remember these scenes?
Yep. Yeah, I remember those.
All right. That's what they look like when done. There's Keanu there. He's a very easy guy to draw. He has a very symmetrical face, so it's pretty easy to get a likeness. At least for me, I don't know about anyone else. Yeah. I've noticed a lot of covers people are using photographs and stuff, but I don't. I want it to look more natural, like it wasn't a photograph I was referencing. So I just try to get a feel for his face, a general feel, and I think it works out better that way. It animates him more. So
yeah. I just want to say thank you for showing those. Those are absolutely awesome.
Want to see more? I can show you more. It's up to you. Do you want to see more?
Sure, whatever. Yeah.
Let's see. Oh gosh.
How long does it usually take to draw one of those?
It depends on what's on the page, of course. They go from up to 2 to 3 days sometimes just a day. For the finer details on things, it takes a little longer. There's some pages here where he's sitting in the helicopter. I'll find that page. And he, you have to get all the netting and stuff and, all the details just right. So where's that one page I'm looking for? I can't find it. Where are you? Huh. I don't know where it is. Here we go. This is my cover I just finished for second printing cover.
That's very cool.
I posted it. I colored it as well. I don't know if you saw it on my Instagram page.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it came out pretty good. Here's another page. He's a violent guy.
Yeah.
And he's immortal. He's 80,000 years old, and he's an immortal guy. He can't die. He was sort of born of a god, basically. And there's a reason he was brought into existence. I don't want to give away too much of the story, but there's a reason for it all. It's not just always just a violent person. There's a reason for it, and it's got some depth and heart in it, as violent as it is.
Yeah.
But it's a curse for him for sure. I mean, and you can feel that he feels cursed.
Yeah.
So as it goes along, those questions get answered, and we find his journey, and he kind of wants the truth about what he is, because he doesn't even know why he was brought into existence, or why he has this need to destroy everything like he does. He goes into this bloodlust, and
Yeah.
so it unfolds that way, and we learn a lot about him. It's an interesting character. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Now, a couple days ago, that this was announced that it's going to be becoming a movie and an animation.
Yeah,
What do you think of that? Will you be like a part of the animation at all, or like what do you will you be a part of like any of it?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. It's still early on. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. We'll find out. I mean, I'm not really at liberty to talk too much at this point about that kind of stuff, about deals, and I can't talk. I'm not going to talk about.
Yeah, I know.
It's just I can't do it. So,
Yeah.
and all that stuff is very early in the process, and I'm not sure what's going to happen yet.
Yeah.
But it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. So I'm really looking forward to it. But I think
Sure.
it's time to put your jiu-jitsu skills to good work and teach Keanu some stuff.
I would
And
love
be a part of the movie. And
a couple of things. Maybe we'll see what happens. See what
yeah.
we can do. That would be a gas for sure.
So Ron, I have two more questions, and then I have some fan questions if you want to answer some questions from the fans.
Sure.
All right. And with those ones, you can just like give like really short answers, like you don't have to like expand on it, but whatever you want to do.
Okay.
But I wanted to talk about like two movies that you worked on that I absolutely love, and that's I Am Legend and Sorcerer's Apprentice. Can you tell me like all about this? Like, what exactly did you have to do, and like, what were you doing with these movies?
I was a costume illustrator. See, there's this guy. His name's Michael Kaplan. He's the costume designer, and there are these formal costume designers for these movies who come up with a look, and but he needed an illustrator he wanted a specific style to work with, and I think I was referred to him through a friend. I think it was Howard Porter. Somebody called Howard Porter and asked him if he knew anyone, and Howard referred him to me because he was looking for something kind of like a Mobius sort of style. And when I had done Silver Surfer, I was pushing on a Mobius sort of riff. I was very influenced on that particular book, trying to do something Mobius would do, because I loved the stuff just for fun to try it. So anyway, the guy asked me if I would come in. His name is Michael Kaplan. Asked me if I'd come into New York and to Chelsea and meet with him. So I did, and he loved my portfolio of stuff, and so I just started working on it, and that was fun. I mean, in I Am Legend, I got to meet Will Smith. I was on set at one point. That was trippy too. I mean, I was on set, and I'm standing there. It was in an abandoned bank right in the middle of Manhattan where they were filming, and somebody kneels down next to me. I look, and it's Will Smith, like literally right here at my feet. And I'm just looking, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh shit, oh my gosh, it's Will Smith, So I just looked, and I kind of maneuvered away to the other side. I kind of weirded out by it because it seemed like he sought me out just to kneel next to me. Weird. So I moved to the other side, and then he followed me over. Strange. He follows me over, and he puts his hand out. He's like, "Hey, man." I'm like, "Hey." He's like, "Welcome to the team." And he shakes my hand. I'm like, "Cool, nice to meet you." And I happen to have a comic, and I said, "Here, give this to your son. So can we take a picture together?" And then he got kind of weird. Like, I'm like, "Is that all right?" He's like, "Oh yeah, man." But at first, he kind of just looked at me like he didn't expect me to say, "Oh, let's take a picture together." But and I gave his son a Spider-Man comic that I had done. But it was all good, And then I went to the wrap party saw him there. I brought my wife, introduced her to him, and his wife, Jada Pinkett. And yeah, it was a fun experience. And I learned a lot. The illustrations I had to do for the movie were a real eye-opening experience, because in this business, we're by ourselves. We don't have people looking over our shoulders so much to tell you, hey, that looks a little funny. You have to find it yourself. And sometimes you don't see things right away. And that's actually one of the good things about working with Keanu, is I'll send stuff in and he's very vocal about something he wants different. I'm not really I wasn't used to that, because I've gone through my whole career. I've never had to really change too much. So when Keanu wants something, a certain thing, I'll look at it and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I see what he's saying and it makes sense, and it's a good thing to have, because you grow from it and it helps you keep your mind fresh rather than get stale and get caught spinning your wheels on something. It can bump you forward when you have a fresh set of eyes on something that helps you see something you hadn't seen before. Working with Michael Kaplan was like that. He would look over my sketches of these zombie characters, these undead characters or whatever from this virus. And he'd say, Cal, that looks a little, this or that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I see it. But it really spurred growth in me artistically. I was able to trust my instincts more. And it's kind of like competing, like in jiu-jitsu. You kind of go and you learn, because you learn what instincts to trust and what not to trust. And it was the same thing doing that. So it's been, it was a lot of fun. So really, it was a gas. What are these fan questions?
Fan questions now? All right.
Yeah. What are those about?
All right.
Where are those from?
What was your favorite character to draw?
Oh, boy. Berserker. Actually, this guy's behind me. I would say Daredevil was my favorite thing I had done at Marvel up to to this day. I've done so much. I mean, I like the Get Mystique arc I did with Jason Aaron.
Yeah.
Some of the Wolverine stuff. Those were fun stories. But artistically speaking, Daredevil was the most fun I had. Because I just started inking my own stuff.
Yeah.
I did Men of Wrath. I just inked it all myself. And there was a big growth spurt there, because it was so much fun to experiment. I didn't have to hold back on all the things I'd held back on over the years, because I was going to have an inker change, because whenever you have somebody else inking you, it changes you, it's never 100% you. It would be like Charles Schultz having someone else ink his Peanuts strips. It wouldn't be all him, So once I started inking myself, I didn't feel restricted by the idea that someone else was going to go over my work. And so I was able to just break loose and just be free with it on Men of Wrath. And then by the time I got to Daredevil, I was really experimenting with the white spaces, and everybody's comparing me to Frank Miller and stuff. And that's not on purpose. Obviously I love Frank Miller, and I obviously to some degree, but it's not on purpose. It's just I like the idea of using negative space and whiting out lines, and it's just really interesting to me. So that's, just like it was for him, and it was for Alex Toth and other artists who had used that style before him. So so Daredevil probably.
Who was your biggest inspiration in the industry?
Biggest inspiration? Comic industry?
Making you think.
Well, I will have to say that early on, growing up, I remember John Buscema's stuff the most. I had when you're younger, you don't really recognize the artists so much, but for some reason with him and Jack Kirby, I mean, it just stuck out in my head. His John Buscema's work was just so exemplified Marvel, I think. And comics to me, and then Jack Kirby stuff too. There are things that stuck out in my head that Kirby had done. Lots of that stuff back then. I wasn't an avid comic fan or anything growing up, but I did read them. So for the amount that I did read, I know that those things, influenced me, because those stuck out in my head for the minor amount that I had read over the years. So it was John Buscema and Jack Kirby, and then Joe Kubert later. Lots of people influenced me. I can't pinpoint one. Mobius, big influence when I was young, for sure.
Yeah.
I just loved his work. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So I got these questions from people off of Instagram. Just want to let you know that this next question isn't from me, but it says,
I saw you asked people, and there was nothing in the post. I didn't think I was going to have any fan questions.
I did it like as a story, so I could see like what everyone said. So,
Okay.
do you drink beer, and if so, what do you recommend?
No, I don't drink that often, believe it or not. I just love the look of the bottle. I honestly, as far as beer drinking, when I was younger, I could drink more. I don't like to drink a lot of beer now. I don't feel good from it. Of course, I don't feel good from drinking a lot at all. But beer in particular makes me feel bloated and gross. But if I do enjoy one or two cold ones in the summer, but it's only domestic. I drink the regular stuff like Budweiser. I'm not, I don't like dark beer so much. I'm more of a whiskey guy. So.
Yeah. This one's not really a question, but it says, I would love to see you work on Moon Knight.
Really? Okay. I did.
Yes.
I did work on it. Was one of the first regular titles I worked on. It was the first regular book I ever worked on was Moon Knight. That's a trick question, obviously.
Someone's not doing their research.
Yeah, no, I did. That was the first book I had. Well, G.I. Joe was my very first comic that ever got printed. And then I did Moon Knight as a regular stint. So, yeah. So I did it. It was fun. That was a gas because it was so new and my life changing because of it. And, that book in particular and that time of my life were very important to me. So I have fond, there's a fondness in my heart for that book.
Yeah. And now that they're making like a TV show for Moon Knight, that's going to be coming out.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard that.
It's going to be pretty cool.
Who's starring in that?
I don't think they have like a person locked down for it yet, but they said that
you should star.
Me?
Yeah. It can be Mark Spector.
I think they were talking about like Oscar Isaac for the part, but I don't know yet. Next question. Is there a hero in the big two you're interested in working on, but you haven't got a crack at it yet?
I had always wanted to do Superman. Never got to do it, except I did JLA. I was at DC for a couple of years, but it wasn't the same thing. That was not a good time for me artistically. A lot of personal stuff. When I got asked to go to DC, they had offered me Superman, but then when I got there, they sort of bait and switched me and asked me to do JLA. And I'm not good on team books. I like being able to tailor my style for a character and make that character unique, And when you go on a team book, it's like a bunch of different characters. You can't really focus on one. I like focusing on one individual character and making it my own. So, while I did JLA and, it was interesting to be able to draw them all, I didn't enjoy it because I couldn't really break out with it, And with Superman, I felt like I just loved the character. Who doesn't? And I felt like maybe I could bring something to it that hadn't been done before artistically if I could find it. It's something I tend to approach the work like the character needs to live on its own. Like you don't want to stifle your child's creativity, your child's growth by taking their identity away, imprinting your own on it. That's sort of what artistic styles can do. I try to create a style for the character so it lives and breathes on its own, on its own. I don't try to have a particular look that I apply to everything. I try to apply something different to each one. And that's probably what makes me look different, maybe than most guys. I don't know. But super long answer for a short question.
Yep. So I have a couple more. These ones are like more of like quick fire ones. Like these would be the type that I would like ask like bodybuilders because they don't care about what they say, but like I want to like ask you like some good questions.
Care about what they
What's
say.
that?
Bodybuilders don't care about what they say.
Yeah, they get really weird. So.
Well, you got to think, man. I mean, it's no slam on by. I loved bodybuilding. I used to do it, but when you really look at it, to get to that extreme, where you're that big and you're up, and your whole world is about going on a stage and posing your muscles. It's like there's definitely you're a unique individual to be able to do that. So I would imagine the answers you get are pretty interesting.
Yeah, if you want to like get a little taste of it, there's a man called Nick Walker.
Yeah,
and he created his own clothing line, and one of the shirts that he's most known for is a shirt that says "Ass Man" on it. And then he sent me one, so I made a video about it, and my mom got really mad. So
yeah, I could imagine your mom wouldn't be too happy about that. I'd be sending you a shirt that says that.
But everyone was laughing about it, and
why did he send it to you?
Because I was like joking around at the beginning, because I was like, I've wanted one of your shirts for a long time, but my mom won't let me get it. What can you do to help? And he's like, I'm just gonna send you one. So I was not expecting that.
Why is he called Ass Man?
Because he likes ass.
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess I could dig deeper into that, but I won't.
Yeah, but I told you, some bodybuilders are pretty weird.
Yeah, that's a pretty strange one. Is that his answer? He just says he likes ass. Is that it?
Yeah.
And what kind of ass?
I have no idea.
Specific kind of ass he likes?
Probably. I just don't know.
Okay. All right. I'll leave it at that.
All right. What would the world be like if everyone was clones of you?
Oh, God. That's a good question. Oh my God. A very dark, sticky place. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Right.
I'm a psycho, so I don't know. I can't even contemplate.
All right, that's fine. Just quick answers.
That's the thing.
If you were transported 400 years into the past with no clothes or anything, how would you prove that you're from the future?
Do you want a quick answer to that? How would I prove I was from the future? Wait, say that again.
If you were sent 400 years into the past with no clothes or anything, just you,
how would I prove?
How would you prove that you're from the future? Like, do you have tattoos? Do you have tattoos?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, there's your answer.
The tattoo is my. They have tattoos back 400 years ago.
Well, do you have color, or is it black and white?
They're color.
Yeah,
it's
see?
Shoulder. But yeah, I don't think a tattoo would be very convincing. You'd have to show them some sort of way of building some sort of technology to show them that, and then you're hung for being a witch or something, or burned at the stake. Like learn how to
be burned at
the
stake.
Light fire with a match or something, or butane.
What's the most ridiculous fact you know?
Most ridiculous fact I know? Oh my God, these questions. I need time to think about those. Next question.
All right, last one. If you were wrongfully put into an insane asylum, how would you convince the people that you were not insane?
I wouldn't be able to. Probably be. I feel like I'm insane because everyone else is nuts. Because everyone else drives me crazy. So I'm crazier than everyone else because they're crazy. That's my.
Right.
So I wouldn't be able to convince them. They would think they were the sane one. So I wouldn't be able to convince them because I'm not either. Because they drive me crazy. The world is driving me crazy right now. I mean, the world we're living in is absolutely freaking nuts. So
yeah,
it drives me nuts. I don't know how you feel about the world we're living in. But
I can't wait to go to like concerts again and go back to jiu-jitsu and not have to wear masks anymore and go to.
You're in the same state. You guys should come by and train or something. I have mats in the basement.
Definitely.
So you're welcome to come anytime. You can play with you play video games at all, like Fortnite or anything?
No, not really.
Okay, because my son's into that. But
I'd rather read
how
comics.
tall are you? My son's tall, and he's like 100 and maybe 35.
I'm like 5'7",
And how much do you weigh?
140.
Yeah, you could train with my son. He's or something.
All right, Ron. I have one last question that I ask all my guests on the show, and this question's for people like me who aren't the most popular in school, people who like sit alone at lunch, and people who want to like go out and do great things, but they're stuck in life right now. They don't know what to do. What advice can you give these people to like get going and finally like go out and work hard to get what they want to do, to do what they want to do?
What advice would I give them? Well, you have to be committed. Everything is commitment. No matter what you do in life, you want for it to succeed to the level that some people see themselves at. Like if you're inspired by Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or a comic artist you're a fan of or whatever, what got them there was their commitment and not spreading themselves out where they can't focus on, I kind of went through that. I touched on that earlier where I had so many different interests and, my art suffered because of it. But if you look at a guy like, let's say, Alex Ross, all he did since he was little was paint. And look at him now. Everything is commitment. Once you commit to everything and you give 100%, but it takes love to do it, then you'll succeed. That's what'll get you there. If you don't commit to it, if you go, I'm not going to do it today, that's one step further back you are. You have to go full steam ahead. I can hear myself reflecting back in my head. But yeah, so that's what advice I would give. Commit to the craft and take criticism well. It's not, criticism sounds like a horrible word, like it sounds like a biting, pointed word. It's not. It should be a positive word. Criticism should be a positive. I would say feedback or, take that well and try to embrace it. Don't reject it. So that's what I would say.
Well, Ron, I want to thank you so much for doing this podcast. I had a lot of fun.
You are a beast. You're living
you.
your namesake, Will the Beast.
Well, thanks again, Ron. I hope you had fun. Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun. Awesome. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it so much.